What's up, y'all? This is Mike Brown, and I just wanted to say thank you for tuning into this week's episode of The Art of Letting Go. I want to give a huge shout out to Morgan Amirkhani. Sorry if I'm saying your last name wrong, for being my first monthly subscriber on Anchor. If you guys would like to support, you can go to anchor.fm and become a monthly supporter. Also, if you want to just support the show, you can share it with people, like it, subscribe to it, and just let other people know what you think. I appreciate y'all so much. It's The Art of Letting Go.
Yo, what up? This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Today, I have a special guest in the building. Well, outside, because we outside. I first got introduced to your podcast on Instagram, and when I met you, learned that we had more in common, both being from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You mind introducing yourself to the people?
Of course. I'll take it from here. I'm just kidding. What's up? My name is Jose. Like you mentioned, I'm a podcaster as well. I co-host the Homo Homie Podcast. It's a podcast that's LGBTQ catered, but it's all through the Latino experience. So we've been doing that for like 2 years, I would say. We're on season 3, planning season 3 right now. And I just moved to LA recently from Miami about 2 years ago. I don't count the COVID year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of your podcast as well. Ever since I
that.
came across it online and we met, I've been tuning in. And so I'm super excited to be here. And thanks for having me.
That's what's up. I appreciate you being here. Before we go too far, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to this podcast. Leave a comment. Let other people know what you think. And I appreciate y'all being here. Well, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I mean, we're out here with like dogs and birds and ducks and God knows what's out here.
Right. And you know what? I used to record at this park when I lived in the valley.
Really?
Yeah. Like this used to be my spot to just come clear my thoughts and just say whatever came to mind.
That's cool. This is like my local like neighborhood park that I come to like relax and like just walk and like listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
I probably listened to some of your episodes here walking around.
That's what's up.
That's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I brought you on the show today because we've had conversations. I feel like multiple conversations about imposter syndrome.
Yes.
It's definitely one of those things that I'm working through, and also that I'm trying not to claim on myself. Does that make sense?
Like not claim anymore?
Not claim anymore. Correct.
Okay. Because we all got a little bit of the syndrome.
We do. But I think if we accept it and like just be like, yeah, I got this. I don't know how easy it'll be to move past it. You know what I mean?
To like undiagnose ourselves from that syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Brown.
Yeah. and not even that. Like, you know, when I think about it, I associate it with just negativity towards myself. You know what I'm saying? And
okay.
I see it showing up. I see it show up in different parts of my life, and not just in like me pursuing my passion or work, but relationships. Where do you see it show up most for you? And can you tell us what imposter syndrome is first before we go too far into it?
Yeah, I see it mostly in careers, and usually imposter syndrome is associated with having self-doubt.
Yeah.
Which could be low self-esteem, low confidence, not believing in yourself. And it's also like your surroundings, how they affect you, and how whether or not you have a support system. And so imposter syndrome comes just like that helicopter. It will come out of nowhere, you know. I haven't seen it show up in like relationships or like family stuff for me personally.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of what that means for you. But it's mostly like even like as a student, you know, a lot of students go through that as well. But yeah, I would say that that's what imposter syndrome is. It's also, I think it's also not acknowledging your wins. Like, you need to acknowledge your wins. You need to acknowledge how far you've come. You have to remind yourself, like, oh, wait, you know, like that popular meme, like, stop and remind yourself, like, oh, I prayed for this, or like, I wanted this, or like, I planned for this, or like, you have your current mood board. Look at your old mood boards too.
Right.
You like pull those up. Like, I'm sure you took a picture of them, and then you'll see, like, oh shit, like, I have accomplished some of these things, and like, it's okay for me to pat myself in the back. And so I think that's how you can like ease imposter syndrome out of you. But yeah, it's just like COVID. Like, it's everywhere, you know?
Yeah. And I agree with you, because I think that's what really has been helping me. Like I said, maybe it's been there, but it's not something I'm gonna hold on to forever, because it's like I do take that time now to acknowledge like what I'm doing, you know, how I'm doing it, and like you said, just checking off those goals and going back and look at things. Have you ever had imposter syndrome with podcasting?
No. Have I? I don't think so. I think that sometimes as a team, because like the podcast has a team, you know, it's not just me. I'm a co-host. We have the host. We have someone who helps us with producing. We have someone that helped us with like our studio setup. We used to have someone that helped us with sound engineering. And as a collective, I would say that we had imposter syndrome, you know? We were all scared, like, are we doing this right? Like, is that enough listeners? Like, usually it was negative. It's like, nope, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, hold up. Like, that's 5,000. Like, that's something, you know? Or like, that's 10,000. That's something. That's 15,000. That's something. But we always seem to compare ourselves to like something that we're like a fan of or something that we follow. And you have to realize that a lot of times that took years. Or like, you don't know like what investment that they put into it, or like how many hours that went into that. Things don't happen overnight, you know? Not everything is like a viral success. So we have to like stop and just realize that, you know?
Yeah. And that makes me think about what you said about having a support system, because, you know, for the most part, I do all of this alone. Mm-hmm. But there used to be times when I would record episodes and feel like this episode wasn't good enough, or this one was like not that great. And somebody would reach out to me and tell me like, wow, this episode really touched me. So, yeah, I think
it like validates you.
Of course.
But why is it like that we're always seeking for validation?
I don't know.
I think it's because we don't live in this world alone, and like you can't function alone. Like, you may shut yourself off every once in a while and things like that, but like you can't function and go through life alone. And I'm not saying like, you know, a partner or relationship. I'm just meaning in general, like in society. So that's why we always seek validation from our peers. We want to be accepted into groups, into communities, into neighbors, into work spots, with roommates, with family reunions. You're always looking to get accepted. So that's why I feel like we are always looking for validation. My thing is like, I think that's fine because it's normal. It's like a normal thing to do. It's just like, don't let that get to you to the point where you are putting yourself down all the time.
Right. I agree. And, you know, the seeking of the validation, because as I think about that, it's like, sometimes not necessarily seeking validation, but just kind of like that confirmation of like, I'm doing the right thing, you know, because sometimes seeking validation can turn into something negative as well too.
Yeah. I wonder if it starts with like, it just reminded me of like kids, because I know that you also teach. It just reminds me of kids getting like those like certificates or those stickers, or, you know, like, here you go, like, you know, you got first in class or second in class, or like even the ones that don't rank, they're like, oh, well, here's a participation reward or something like that. I wonder if that starts there, you know?
I think it does start that early, you know, especially like, when you're in school and you show someone that is like a model student, you know what I mean? It's like be like him because he's doing the right things, and now you're kind of validating who this person is as a person, and now people are chasing that status to be that. So yeah, I think it does start in school. And I think for me, one teaching technique that I try to use is like getting kids to think for themselves. Rather, like, if you ask me if this is good, I'm not going to tell you if it's good or not. I know what I think, but what is it to you,
Right. Yeah. And it also translates into other things around our everyday lives, like even like sports, for example. Like we all watch like the Olympics and the World Cup and like all these sporting events. We're also obsessed with award shows, like getting Grammys and Academy Awards, and that's all part of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Because those people do set an example, like you said, like a model. And so younger people that are getting into the business, whether it's music, acting, sports, athletes, they need some kind of template, like a role model. But I feel like you said, like people get confused between like, are you looking at that person as a role model, like a blueprint, or are you like trying to be like them because you feel like that's the only way to be?
Yeah. I have a question for you, and it just kind of popped in my head, but how do you validate yourself?
That's tough. I think that I have trouble validating myself because I'm always seeking like for mom's blessing. And even when I don't have the best relationship with like my family, for some reason, like I still have like that inner child in me that's trying to make my mom proud.
Yeah.
And that could be translated into like my family proud, my older brother, making my younger sister proud, just making family proud, because I know as a child of immigrants, like I know how much hard work went into them to be in this country and fight and work for what they have. So that somehow that's just like ingrained in me, and it's probably going to be there for the rest of my life. And I'm always trying to make them proud back home.
That's what's up.
So that's like one big box that I'm trying to always check off.
Yeah.
This another one would be, unfortunately, it would be like financial stability. Just making sure that I can comfortably afford my living expenses, my utilities, whatever the case may be, and just be comfortable and stable. And if I'm not stable and I'm not financially comfortable, I feel like I'm failing.
Yeah.
And so that's where we start fighting for salaries and fighting for like getting paid what we're worth. And greed gets to us, and that has happened to me. But now I think I'm in a place in my life where I'm comfortable in that sense, and I'm no longer seeking validation, financially speaking. I know that there's more to life than that. There's more to life than just getting these accolades and these awards and things like that. So, yeah, I'm looking towards that,
That's what's up. That's really dope. I was kind of thinking about how do I validate myself, and a lot of times for me, it kind of feels like it comes from action, just because the lead up to actually doing something, it takes up a lot of energy. So it's like once it's actually done, it's like, okay, I did it, and that's it.
Yeah. It's almost like scratching something off your to-do list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. And I guess that's why you do have to like have those goals and set those goals, and truly, because I'll be honest, when I was younger, like, in my 20s and stuff, I feel like I set goals that were for myself, but then I also set goals that were like, I guess, more for stuff outside of me, like more, I guess like society standards of things. Does that make sense?
Give me an example.
So like maybe like a financial goal of like where I'm supposed to be or something like that, and that may not truly be what I'm even really looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like I may be like really trying to just do some life shit and kind of looking at that financial goal. Like sometimes that would discourage me. Like, damn, I didn't hit that. But then I have to look at this other side and say, okay, I did do this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So are you dealing with imposter syndrome now?
I don't feel like it. No. And to be honest, going back to that support thing, somebody had reflected that mirror back to me, you know, because I like I said, I did find myself in a lot of situations where I didn't feel like I was doing enough or if I was good enough. And it was actually a friend who also listened to the show, just told me, he was like, I heard you talking about, you know, imposter syndrome and what you project into the world is not that.
Right.
And I had to really like listen to that and take that because, you know, I feel like in my life I've taken so much negativity and accepted that as just my value that now I have to take these positive things when they come to me and really accept those as well. So somebody telling me like, yeah, you don't project that, and me taking that time to reflect and saying, nah, I'm not feeling negative about myself. I know that I'm enough. Like, you know, and also me feeling that way, I recognize shows up in people around me. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you growing, the people around you gonna grow. If the people around you growing, you gonna grow. So me not having that mindset, the people around me are not having it. And I had a friend that called me, you know, a couple of weeks ago and was just telling me how like he knew he was enough, you know, and hearing him say that for me also made it clear for me, like, yeah, I know I'm enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it made me comfortable when we were talking about asking for a price. I'm comfortable saying what my price is because I know my worth.
Yeah. And I think that comes also with experience and like the ups and downs that you've been through. Because I feel like I've been letting go of imposter syndrome as I get older. And so now that I'm into my 30s, my early 30s, I just feel like I don't have time for imposter syndrome. I can't have time for it, you know, and I need to. It's almost like happiness. You know, they say like people are always seeking happiness, and then some people are like, you just have to like force happiness. You just have to think happy thoughts. That's
real.
And that's so hard for me, you know? So when it comes to imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome hits me in the face when an amazing opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, Jose, you're invited to this. And I'm like, me? Like, no way. And I'm like nervous. And I'm like, wait, like, why am I getting like this?
Yeah.
Like, I was invited for a reason. I'm here for a reason. Like, you know, this is my destiny. Like, I worked for this. Like, all my education, all my accolades, all my awards or whatever success may be, you know, it led me to on this path, and I'm here for a reason. And so once I remind myself that, when I'm in a room full of like creatives or like really smart people, I'm like, if I wasn't smart myself or creative myself, I wouldn't be in this room or in this meeting, you know? So, lately, like I have these new clients that I've been working with, and everyone's pretty smart, and I'm like, am I supposed to be here or not? Start at the beginning of this year, I started working with Netflix, Amazon Studios, and Disney Plus, and so they got me working on like pop culture marketing stuff, and that's my passion. That's what I do, and I know that everything that all this effort and all this time that I put into my skills have paid off, and so that helps me fight off imposter syndrome.
That's what's up. And as I've been listening to you too, I think acknowledgement is something that's important as well. Like, because, you know, kind of how you were saying, like with the being happy and thinking happy thoughts, is like every time I'm not happy, but if I'm sad and I can say I'm feeling sad right now, like that's a starting place for me to get through the sadness. So it's like even feeling those thoughts, like when they come up, yeah, they're gonna come up. But then when I think about like, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? And I don't really have a true valid reason. I gotta let that shit go.
Yep.
Something that always worked for me, like, because anytime that I've had to perform music on a stage, I've always been like scared. And maybe like the last couple of times that I've done it, it was like, okay, I'm scared right now. And me saying it out loud, like I'm scared, it was like, okay, what the fuck am I scared for? And not having a reason, and then I have to go for it.
Right. And it's like, even if you are scared, like, why be scared of something that you love so much?
Exactly.
Like, you were hired to perform here, or you were invited to perform here, or whoever booked you likes what you're doing. So there's a connection there. So don't think that like you're just like at the wrong place.
Right. That's real.
I forgot, like, I'm trying to remember this post that I sent you. Okay, so the post came from the chief marketing officer of Netflix, and she was talking about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And she said, like, when she's in a boardroom, in a board meeting with all these like big wigs, CEOs and things like that, the question was like, do you suffer from imposter syndrome? And she's like, it was almost like an exorcism, like, no, like I will not allow imposter syndrome to be in the same room with me, because I'm in this room for a reason, and you have to remember those reasons, and like it'll just like go away.
So what does letting go of imposter syndrome look like for you?
Letting go of it looks like, I mean, it feels like liberation. It feels good. It feels right. It feels authentic. I would say letting go of imposter syndrome is being your true self, living your authentic life, and also being proud. I think that's what it boils down to. Like, you have to be proud of yourself. Because, like, going back to validation, we're always wanting other people to be proud of us. Yeah. You got to be proud of yourself first.
That's what's up. Are you proud of the things that you're doing right now?
Hell yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I'm really proud. Actually, I'm too proud, because sometimes, because like one thing about me that I've noticed, and I think this is a little bit of imposter syndrome, maybe like a symptom, it's like I get shy, and I don't like to tell people what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid that it's going to come off like, here we go. Yeah. Or that person may not be in a good spot right now in their career or whatever they're doing. And like, I don't, a lot of people compare.
Yeah.
And that's a easy way to like put yourself down, is by comparing. So I don't know. I always do that a lot. I get shy. I try not to talk about it, but of course I'm always invited to like different podcasts and different, panels to talk about what I do. And, when I hear people ask me questions and I can help my community, whether it's LGBT, whether it's Latino, whether it's people that are studying what I studied, and they're so appreciative, like, that makes me so happy and that makes me so proud.
That's what's up. That's really dope. I want to transition to something else dope that you are doing, and that is your podcast.
Okay.
How did you guys get started?
Not like this in the park. There's so many moving things around me. This is definitely requires a skill. How do we get started? Actually, there's a couple of nightclubs here in LA, gay nightclubs, specifically for people of color, and the owner was looking to grow their brand, build their brand in the digital space. So, like, they create websites, they create YouTube channels, and he wanted to create a podcast. And at the same time, my friend Eric, he wanted to create a podcast. And so it just, good timing, and they partnered up together, and they decided that they needed a co-host to launch and all that. So they reached out to me, and I said yes to the challenge. I think I've always wanted to have a podcast. I feel like a lot of people think about podcasts and they're like, oh, that's so cool, I want to have one. And so when I saw the opportunity, I was like, you know what, this is like a good way for me to ease into the podcasting world. And then it just took off, you know. Luckily, we had that solid foundation of those nightclubs, and their fans and their followers kind of like moved over onto the podcast and were able to like hear like a verbal version of like that brand.
Yeah.
So we just grew from there.
That's what's up. What advice would you give to somebody that's trying to get into podcasting or just starting out?
To run the opposite direction? No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, I say that because it is a lot of work. And I see people start podcasts every day, and then you don't hear from them because they realize how much work goes into it. I don't want to discourage anyone from not doing it. If you want to do it. Definitely go for it. But I'm come from a very strategic background, so like I would plan it out.
Yeah.
Like, who are you talking to? Who would be your ideal listener? What niche audience are you gonna tackle? What language? What tonality? Like, what vibe? What energy are you trying to give off? And then like, how are you gonna find that audience? How are you gonna get to them? So I would at least outline that out. You can do a vision board. You can do whatever you have to do, but don't go into it blindly.
Yeah,
that would be my advice.
I agree with that. What's keeping you doing it?
The money. I'm just kidding. I'm rolling in it. I'm kidding. Well, this may sound cliche, but it is a passion project. It is something that I find very fun to do. I love doing it. I love connecting with people. But low key, the real reason I do it is because this is like how I build my Rolodex.
Yeah.
You know, so from a business perspective, I'm interviewing like people that are doing things in the community. And like, as soon as I invite them to be on the podcast or I interview them on the podcast, they're on my team now.
Yeah.
You know? And so I know what that feeling feels like, because when people interview me, like, I always keep them in my radar. I always keep them in mind for opportunities. So vice versa, you know, that love goes back. And so I'm definitely using this to continue building my platform, continue building my community, continue networking, you know. And at the same time, I think the payoff is those small businesses, those entrepreneurs, those people who have a message to get out, and us providing that platform for them. That's like such a rewarding feeling, you know. So that also drives me a lot. And people are super into it, and so I don't want to take that away from them. It's kind of like when your favorite show gets canceled, and you're like, dang.
I definitely feel that. Man. So I got a couple of more questions for you. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
They do this challenge on Drag Race all the time. You know what I'm talking about. I know you're like the biggest Drag Race fan.
Right.
So, but you know what they do on the show? They pull up a photo of like you in kindergarten. They're like, talk to yourself. So thank God you don't have a photo of me. I'll probably start crying. I would give myself the advice that I just spoke on this podcast episode. Like, being proud of yourself is hard work. If only I should have been prouder of myself earlier on, you know, only God knows like where I would have been now. If I would have taken these wins and run with them, if I would have believed myself sooner, if I would have, you know, been more appreciative of like my support system and know that they're there for me, and like acknowledge my resources and take advantage of them and use them. Like, if only I would have started sooner. Like, I always think of that. Maybe I'm in like my own race with myself or my own timeline. But yeah, I mean, I would tell myself to to like look around and really pay attention to those things.
That's what's up. What's a reminder that you would like to give to your future self?
A reminder to my future self? I think that my future self will always remember, and if I had to remind them, where you come from, you know, because that always humbles me, and that always grounds me, and that always also makes me proud. You know, not only am I proud from where I came from, but I'm also proud of how far I am from where I came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times people are like, I'm trying to get out the hood, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then there's the other side of the coin where they're like, oh, why would you leave the hood? Like, that's where you're from, you know? So it's balancing that, you know, and just being proud of where you're from and not forgetting those roots.
Port Arthur, Texas, bitch. Oh man. And I have another segment that I would like for you to participate in, and it is called the 5 Questions of Freedom, sponsored by Feel Free to Feel Free. And I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you are going to answer these questions as fast as you can.
Ooh, should I be scared?
Maybe.
It's this or that?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
Okay.
So the first one is marketing or podcasting?
Marketing.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
That's so hard. So many names ran through my mind.
So you could give as many as you want.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Who would be at the table? Let's start with Jesus. Followed by like Selena Quintanilla and Tupac Shakur.
Okay.
And that'll be my panel.
Wow. Okay. Be a really interesting conversation. Texas or California?
In terms of what?
Your decision.
Texas.
If my name is Jose, and if I wasn't doing marketing or podcasting, I would be blank.
An anesthesiologist.
Okay. Okay. And the last one is, why should people check out the Homo Homie Podcast?
Because it's dope. Because it's funny.
I'm with you. That's more than enough. That's more than enough for me.
And also because it's a good resource for our community. And even though it's an LGBT podcast, we actually, one of our focuses is our allies, our straight allies. And so for parents out there and for people that are straight, that want to learn more about the community, they can tune in. Because we make it a point to cover a different topic in every episode. And you never know, like, you may be a parent that has a child that comes out, and now you have to become, you have to learn to live, with someone like that. And so you have to educate yourself, and our podcast is a resource tool for that.
Yeah. And I also think that, like, even aside from, like, it's called the Homo Homie Podcast, but you are a person with knowledge, and you could give knowledge to anybody. You know what I mean? And because that's honestly with this podcast, when I first started, when you were talking about your niche audience, I really thought my niche audience was going to be gay, black, and it's like completely opposite of that.
Really? So what is it?
It's majority straight people, straight black men, women, women of all races, but like, it's just interesting, and I'm picking up more of a gay audience now because I'm putting myself in gay spaces. So I created a profile on every dating app, so you can find me on a dating app, but it has my podcast in there, and people have been listening to it and telling me how much they enjoy it. So it's been helpful. Thank y'all for drawing my face into you listening to me podcast. So
That's what's up.
yeah, but yeah, I think people can definitely benefit from listening to your show. Man, I appreciate you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you let the people know where they can find you and the show?
They can find me at this park. What is this place called? No, but you can find me all over social media. At the Jose Resendez, my Instagram. I'm sure it's going to be in the description. And you can also follow at the Homo Homie Podcast. And we also have a website, thehomohomiepodcast.com, where you can see all the places that we're streaming at, and all our social medias are connected there as well.
That's what's up. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jose.
Yeah, no problem. This is fun.
Yeah, it really was.
You put me on the spot a couple of times.
You know what? It's always dope to be on the other end of the podcast. I like to be on the other end sometimes. So
You know what? My favorite conversations are the uncomfortable ones.
yeah, that's what's up.
The ones that make me think.
That's what's up.
So thank you for that.
Of course.
Thank you for making my day.
I appreciate that. Thank y'all for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Peace.
Peace.
Thank y'all for tuning into this week's episode. We got some new things coming up, some merch. Also, I would love to hear what y'all thought about this week's episode. Please leave me a voicemail, send me an email, get in touch with me. Instagram, I'm here. Also, if you would like to support the show, I'm on Patreon. You can now subscribe on Anchor. You can also really just share this podcast with anybody you know that would benefit from it. Leave a comment wherever you listen to it, and just really let people know what you think. Help me spread the word. I'm trying to blow up. Yeah, thank y'all for being here, man. It's been The Art of Letting Go, and I will see y'all next week. Peace.